Hi everyone, today we're going to play around with asteroids. Specifically, I want to put a pod, mining capabilities and a set of engines on one of them to be able to travel while mining. First I tried this idea with the Class A asteroid. It was really easy, but Class A asteroids don't hold enough ore to be interesting to carry around. Still, it makes a pretty nice ship, it looks good. Anyways, I changed my design and I targeted a Class F asteroid. The new design includes several reaction wheels mounted on claws to be attached all around our much bigger target, and it should, make it easy to rotate. A few problems arose. First, the design was big, and by big I mean huge, and by huge I mean like a 40 tons payload and about 300 parts. So my frame rate was down the drain during launch. And if that was not bad enough, upon arrival I realized that I forgot to put some ore tanks on this huge design that I thought was so perfect. Turns out someone can be as stupid as this, and I am this someone. Anyways, I had to fly an emergency new rocket with a small payload, basically a small ore tank and a claw. And I had to take that back to the asteroid. Unfortunately, I found an encounter pretty easily, and I still managed to get our tank on the surface of the asteroid while the whole thing was still in Kerbin's sphere of influence. And now that everything is in place, it turns out that nothing turns actually. Nothing works like I expected it. The asteroid weighs about 500 tons, which is more than I thought, and nothing quite, moves around. I still managed to put my engines on the retrograde vector in order to try and capture the whole thing. But I couldn't for the life of Jeb make it slow down, not even half a meter per second. If you look at the acceleration indication from the Kerbal engineer, you can clearly see that our 4 small nukes are not enough to have any kind of effects on this behemoth. Well, that's too bad, but there's no such thing as failure, there's only lessons waiting to be learned, and there is also a very motivated me. So it's time to try something between a Class A and a Class F, and I'm gonna go for a Class C asteroid because that's the next one that presented itself. This time I thought of the ore tank. The payload is getting heavier, and so is my launcher with the additional 8 boosters. Also meant that my frame rate went a little more down, and I had to speed up the whole video to show you the launch without it lasting for 15 minutes like it did in real life. And then this happened, that is, every time I tried to time warp, each and every single part simply fell down towards Kerbin, not, within some kind of gravity well or anything. I'm clearly outside the atmosphere, but everything just collided around the pod, and the pod was the only thing remaining in orbit. So I had to start the game again, and everything went back to normal. Now that the bug is gone and that we are in orbit, it's time to plan and execute our maneuver to get to the asteroid. In case you never did it, here is the idea. You have to plan a maneuver to get an intersection between your orbit and the asteroid's one once you are both in the same sphere of influence. I tend to wait for them to reach Kerbin's sphere of influence, as it's easier to try to get an encounter with them this way than around Kerbal, which is a way bigger orbit. Once you have that close encounter, you can time warp close to the intersection and you can switch your navball to target mode. Everything is about aligning the retrograde vector and the anti-target vector on the navball, and once you are there, you have just to burn until you have killed the relative velocity. After a few times doing this, you're gonna find it almost too easy. Okay, steps by steps, now that we are here, it's time to set up our, let's call it a ship, by disassembling all our bits and parts from our rocket to attach them on the asteroid. Again, I'll fast forward a little because it's all about maneuvering small parts each time the same way using RCS to come and attach them to the asteroids with the claw. The real interesting part is when we have everything in place, and in this case I do mean everything. I did not need a second emergency launch, and half asteroid, half rocket does work just the way I wanted it. It turns rather smoothly, the acceleration is slow at around 2 meters per second, but it's still enough to capture our 90 tons asteroids in Kerbin sphere of influence. Now I can mine this puppy, fill my liquid fuel tanks while driving around, and isn't this progress? We just need a little retrograde burn to capture our asteroid rider and it will be ready for our next adventure. To be honest, I think it's the least effective way to travel, but it's Kerbal enough in my eyes, so I had to do it. It was Crazy Kerman trying crazy technologies for you. Don't forget to subscribe for more and have a nice day in space.